Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the eighth wonder of the internet, a conference championship edition of The Sweat presented by DraftKings. I am Emerson Lotzia. We're joined by a smorgasbord of sports betting and DFS analysts whose job it is to help you make money. Speaking of a big old fat bag, how does winning $1 million sound? Check out the DraftKings $3.5 million fantasy football milli maker. For just $20, you can enter this classic contest that features $3.5 million in total prizes. You take it down, you walk away with a $1 million grand prize. You can enter multiple lineups in this contest as well. So go ahead, take your shot at a big payday here on Championship Sunday. So 4 teams left standing, a trio of road survivors. You got the Bengals, you got the 49ers, and the Rams joining the Chiefs, each one trying to carve out its own legacy with a victory today. You still got a few hours until kickoff. That's going to be 3 o'clock for the early game. However, right now, we have a panel standing by to share with you their best bets. DK contributors, Steve Buchanan, Julian Edlow, Reed T. Fowler. Sweet T, get our early edge segment here started with your best bet today.
Yeah, this one has been bet up a little bit over the week, and I think it's okay that it's still sitting at 29.5 for Mahomes rushing yards. Like I think he's 7th on the list of overall rushing yards this week to have the most, and it kind of is indicative of what he's done in the playoffs, right? In his last 8 playoff games, and I spoke about this on the Sweat earlier, he's averaged 36 rushing yards. You know, he gets these big chunk plays, and so if you take a look at Cincinnati's defense, they'll probably be okay with giving up or letting Mahomes rush. So I do like it, even though it's been bet up throughout the week.
All right, Jules, how do you feel about this?
Yeah, Mahomes rushing in the postseason is generally a sharper play, even with a little bit of inflation, because there's more on the line, and Mahomes knows he can put his body on the line and run. And we saw it last week with him going over his rushing prop on the first drive of the game, 7 carries for 69 yards. You want to go through his game log. He's been right around it. 29 against Pittsburgh in the playoff game. That would lose by the hook, which always stinks. Down the stretch, battling for that 1 seed, 9 for 54 against Denver and 2 for 25 against Cincy. So 2-2 in his last 4. Here's what I bet in my best bets article on the DraftKings playbook. I just took Reed's bet and I just made it a tiny bit better, a tiny bit safer. Patrick Mahomes' long rushing attempt over 14.5 yards. We all remember the Super Bowl against San Francisco. Mahomes went over his rushing prop and then scampered backwards on some of those kneel downs like we've never seen before, and it wound up going under the total. My bet for that game was his long carry, which is what I'm going to here. You go back, his long carry, 34 against Buffalo, 23 against Pittsburgh, so over in both playoff games by a wide margin on 14.5. 25 long carry against Denver, 17 against Cincy. He didn't run the ball in the blowout over Pittsburgh in the regular season. So the last one before that, Chargers long carry of 32. The last 5 times that Patrick Mahomes has had a rushing attempt in a game, he's cleared this number by a wide margin. So I like Reed's bet. I just like his long attempt over 14.5 a lot more.
Yeah, Steve, he's averaged more than 35 rushing yards over his last 8 playoff games.
Yeah, it's great. I like this bet. I like the added sprinkle that Julian put on there too. They are going to do everything they can to beat the Bengals because the Bengals are going to win this game. So, I mean, the Chiefs need to pull out all the stops here today, right? So, but, Patrick Mahomes went over his rushing yards in the first quarter of that game against the Bills. Ran 7 times for 69 yards. Nice. We like that. But then you look at the long, like Julian said too, 34, 23, 25, 17, the last 4 games. I would be shocked if Mahomes didn't go over this number. I understand that Reed mentioned that it was bet up, but like even at that number, that feels extremely obtainable. So maybe it's because we're all apart and, we're sick of the storm. So we just kind of threw in the white flag. We said, whatever, I don't feel like being mean today. Let's just agree with everything. So I like this bet. I like Julian's bet too.
And on top of all that, like his offensive line's inconsistent play has made him more likely to run this season and quite possibly in this game. Jules, where are you going for your best bet?
My best bet, we're also going to rushing props. We are going to the NFC Championship game. We are going to the miraculous Cam Akers. Who knows how he's even on the field after that Achilles injury. And we are going to take his under 62.5 rushing yards. Fading volume can be scary. 24 carries against Tampa last week. So it doesn't feel good to take an under on that. However, let's look at what Cam Akers has done since he's been back on the field. With those 24 carries against a good Bucs rush defense, he only gained 48 yards. And San Francisco right now is a better rushing defense than Tampa is, even though Tampa had a harder start to the season. Volume again against Arizona, 17, but still stayed under. And then against these Niners, not that you can judge him in his first game back from an Achilles tear, but just 5 carries for 3 yards. You want to go overall since he's returned. That's 46 carries for 106 yards, 2.3 yards per carry in those 3 games. And then to tie it all together, the Niners have just been fantastic defending the run, keeping Aaron Jones more than 20 yards under this. The Niners have not allowed a rusher, an individual running back, to gain 63 or more yards against them since early November. So not to mention he fumbled 2 key fumbles at the end of each half last week. He had 24 of 25 running back carries. I'd be surprised if Sony Michel doesn't mix in a little bit more. And then just the spot. I got to go Cam Akers under.
Yeah, Steve, San Fran giving up 7th fewest rushing yards in the league. And as Jules mentioned, Packers offense last week managed only 67 rushing yards.
Yeah, I mean, who knows what the Packers are doing? I just throw that game out. I mean, the Packers came out guns a-blazing, and then they were like, 7 points is enough. We'll just, put it in neutral, and then they ended up losing. I'm with Julian. I don't understand why this is still as high as it is. Like, if you told me that somebody has come into the, over the last 3 games is getting over 45 carries, but they're barely cracking 103 yards, you'd be like, what's this guy still doing in the league? This guy stinks. Are you kidding me? But it's Cam Akers, and he's coming back from a massive injury. It's great that they have him back. It adds an extra wrinkle to that offense. But with that being said, it's not like Cam Akers is going out there and getting a ton of yards even when he takes the ball. And then the 2 fumbles is concerning. Do the Rams, they kept going to him even though he's fumbled twice. One of them was almost critical to the season ending there. So I don't know what they're going to do in this game. I mean, quite frankly, it's great that Akers is on the field, but the more efficient runner, and this pains me to say because I think Sony Michel stinks too, but the more efficient runner on the Rams has been Sony Michel. Now, the bar is obviously not very high if that's where the bar is, but this is how it's played out. So I think this number is too high. Just because of how the NFL season has gone, he's probably going to, go over in 1 carry, and that's just how it's going to be. But as everything is laid out and what we've seen from Cam Akers so far, I like the under in this one too. I think this is a few yards too high.
Reed, the Rams gained just 2.4 yards per carry against the 49ers in Week 18. That was with a positive game script.
Yeah, and look, the Rams, when they deployed the last time these 2 teams met, Darrell Henderson and Sony Michel, they had no success whatsoever. So I think why it's increasing is that the volume is just so substantial for Cam Akers that if he's going to get 99% of the carries, then this seems like an easy bet. But it's been bet up. It was 59.5 earlier in the week, so it's now gone up 5% to the closing line of 62.5, and I was under on that as well. So to make it 3 for 3, and I know Steve mentioned we're all being nice, but these are like the lines right now. We'll get to with Steve's bet are they're pretty tight. They're pretty fair, but these props you can definitely play to that. And look, I mean, since Week 10, the 49ers have not let a rusher go over 47 yards. To just get more specific on what Julian said, and that was against the Rams that they played in Week 10. So yeah, this is a hard 49ers defense to go against.
All right, well, now it is time to not get nice. Steve, your favorite bet, and I have a feeling Julian will not agree with you.
Yeah, let's bring some chaos into this show that's been so nice. That's what we're not about at all. We like to hate on each other and hate on each other's bets. That's what the people come for. So give me the Bengals +7 against the Chiefs. If I'm being honest, I think the Bengals are just going to win outright. So I'll just throw that out there. But I'm going to take them at +7 here just in case things don't go too well, okay? But they are. They're going to be fine. The Bengals, as road underdogs this season, have absolutely crushed in this scenario. They're 5-1 against the spread, covering by an average of 10.2 points. One of the best marks in the league. That's a good number. I just saw Reed kind of tilt his head a little bit. It intrigued him a little bit. He might be changing his answer now. But with that said, we saw these 2 teams play just a few weeks ago. Joe Burrow absolutely picked apart this secondary. Why did that happen? Because Joe Burrow has been one of the most efficient quarterbacks against man coverage, averaging over 9.2 yards per pass attempt in that scenario. What did he do against this team? Throw for over 400 yards. He threw the ball more than 20 yards 7 times in that game. He completed 5 of those attempts for 191 yards and 2 touchdowns. Burrow is going to do his thing here today. He's going to get the Mahomes family out of the spotlight for a couple of weeks, and he's going to go to the Super Bowl being the second quarterback in the league to knock Patrick Mahomes out of the playoffs. Tom Brady, Joe Burrow, let's go, baby. +7 Bengals.
Joe Burrow, our Lord and Savior. Julian, the Bengals have the offensive skill position players here to not only hang with the Chiefs, but to also win outright today.
Yeah, in a regular season game in Cincinnati against a banged-up Chiefs team, they do have the weapons to hang in there and win the game. In the AFC Championship game at Arrowhead Stadium, they don't. The Bills showed everything the Bills did everything they could possibly do, and Mahomes and that offense were still too much. And the one hole that I want to poke in Steve's argument that I've repeatedly done all week is comparing the Bengals spot. The Bengals have been great in this spot, the spot being a road underdog. That's fine, but this team came into the season with a win total of 6.5. They've clearly exceeded that. So their numbers against the spread as a road underdog are going to be good. They're a much better team than we thought they were. Now we know what they are. We're caught up. The Bengals are good. We know that. We all know that. So the number is adjusted. If this game was at Arrowhead in week 3 when we still thought the Bengals stunk, it would be like 14. But it's not. And we say this spot, road underdog. That's fine. It's also the AFC Championship game at Arrowhead. It's a much bigger spot than anywhere that the Bengals have played in all year. I didn't like them on the road at Tennessee. They proved me wrong, but that had to do with Ryan Tannehill barfing down his chest 3 times. First pass of the game picked off. First pass of the second half picked off. Last pass of the game picked off. You couldn't ask for 3 worse interceptions, and you win by 3 on a game-winning field goal. It's not going to be quite as easy going into Arrowhead. Chiefs team total 31.5. I like the over there because the offense has been doing it every time against any defense that gets put in front of them. So the Chiefs are going to score. Maybe the Bengals keep up to a degree, but they're not getting to like 42 like Mahomes did last week. Whatever he had to do, he did it. He's going to do it again.
All right,
Julian's rebuttal is that he's upset that the bookmakers were wrong about the Bengals. If you're that upset, then why don't you complain to Johnny Avello when he comes on the show on Monday and tell him that he did a bad job? Do that.
At the beginning of the season, they did. The numbers were off on the Bengals. Now they're adjusted.
Well, tell Johnny, because that's your rebuttal, and it's terrible.
Sure.
Go ahead, Reed.
We'll cut this up and have it ready for Johnny on Tuesday.
Reed,
On the Unreasonable Odds podcast, but on Twitter, just
thank you, Reed.
no S.
Reed, are you a fan of this number at a flat 7? Because it feels like the Bengals are playing well enough to take those points.
I'm not. I'm a fan of Joe Burrow. I'm a fan of what he's done so far. I'm a fan of Jamar Chase, and I've been very early on in saying that Jamar Chase was being unfairly judged with his preseason drops. Now, when you look at that game when they played a few weeks ago, what Steve mentioned, that a lot of the chips were stacked in the favor of Cincinnati really pulling on everything. And so what Julian said, right? They were at home. And again, they didn't. The refs and the officiating, you pull that aside, right? It did go Cincinnati's way in high-level response, but that's not what I'm talking about. You had an all-pro performance from both quarterback and Jamar Chase in that game, where Cincinnati, look, they had to win that game, and then the next week against the Browns to get into the playoffs. Kansas City, they were already in. So there's a couple of things that you have to, take into the context of that last game. And Kansas City, too, they've scored, an average of 35 points over the last 6 weeks. Talking about now Joe Burrow and this offensive line not protecting him. Spagnuolo rushes, I think, blitzes the 10th highest, 8th highest in the regular season. But the defense now in the playoffs is sort of a bend, don't break, right? So that's the big thing, is that can Zach Taylor trade touchdowns for touchdowns and call a game where they can keep up with Kansas City. I'm not saying Cincinnati is not a great team. I just worry a little bit about what he's able to do. And he's called some negative EV plays. And Evan McPherson has been solid. He's been a really good kicker. So if he's trading field goals with touchdowns, that scares me a little bit about this number. Not to say that Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase aren't fantastic, but the Chiefs are better. This is their 4th AFC Championship game hosting in Kansas City. So there's a lot to be had, but I know Steve's love for Cincinnati goes far and far, but this is where it stops.
Okay, Steven. Everyone has stopped being nice.
Good.
All right. You three will be back
What's up?
Never mind. No, say it. Say it, coward. Say
This is
it.
the part where Steve's supposed to say, He's excited that the Chiefs are going to blitz Joe Burrow because Joe Burrow is the best quarterback in the NFL against the blitz, but they're just going to change the game plan. That's what you do. You change the game plan when you lose to a team, and then you come back and beat them.
We'll see if they change the game plan today. Producer Tom is yelling in my ear that you guys need to stop talking so we can move on. Yep. I'll see you for Make It Rain picks here coming up about 15 minutes or so. Would like to share some really fun facts with everybody about today's AFC Championship game. So Kansas City hosting its fourth straight title game. Won the last two. I believe the first team to ever do that in NFL history to host four straight. Meanwhile, the Bengals making their first AFC Championship appearance since 1989. That's the same year Bette Midler's Wind Beneath My Wings won the Grammy for Song of the Year and Record of the Year. The home team has won 7 of the last 8 AFC title games. KC losing to the Patriots at home in OT a couple seasons ago, but after last week, no longer have an issue with the league's overtime rules. And this is the first postseason meeting between the two franchises, by the way. All right, we already told you guys and gals about the Millie Maker contest for the 2-game slate, but you can also play each individual game in the Showdown Captain mode. And to help us make some of those picks for that format, we bring in DraftKings contributors Pierce Dietrich and Jeff Ulrich. Hello, everybody. Hello, you two. So I need your captain here for Bengals Chiefs. Jeff, where are you going?
I'm going Travis Kelsey. I think that there's a lot of different ways that I shouldn't say. There's a lot of different reasons why Travis Kelsey makes for a great captain's pick here. And the first is just the price. I mean, $3,000 off Patrick Mahomes, essentially $3,000 flat off a Tyreek Hill. I mean, the Chiefs offense runs through 2 players, and one of them is Travis Kelsey. The other factor here is just the matchup. I mean, the Cincinnati Bengals, what do they do good? Their corners have actually been pretty good at shutting down the outside lately. They are not good over the middle. They're not good against protecting against running backs either. And Clyde Edwards-Helaire is actually a sneaky captain's pick. But I'm going to go with Travis Kelsey. It's a bottom 5 team in terms of receptions allowed, yards allowed to the tight end position. And I've harped on this most of the week, but Travis Kelsey is playing better in the second half of the season. His conversion rate with Patrick Mahomes, way up there. They're on par. I think Travis Kelsey gets in the end zone here. I like him for a captain spot.
Pierce, the man you were paying 1.5 times the salary for, but you will receive 1.5 times the points in return.
Bette Midler. No, I might consider her for a utility spot, but I'll go with Joe Mixon. Everyone's playing the receivers and the quarterback, so you can be contrarian by paying up for Mixon. We know he'll get the goal line work. We know that Kansas City is one of the worst in the league at defending receiving running backs. Samaje Perine had a bigger role lately, but that's actually been a negative. When Perine plays 20% or more of the snaps, that's when Joe Burrow faces extreme pressure. The Bengals would be pretty smart to just leave Mixon on the field the entire game, and if that's the case, you're going to have a lot of upside, and you'll get lower ownership going this route.
If anyone was wondering what 1989 sounded like, they know now after watching the last 2 minutes of this show. Jeff, where are you going here for value? Need some help.
Not shocked that Pierce is a Beaches fan. Anyways, I'm looking at Tyler Boyd, man. I mean, there's a lot of like wide receivers that people are going to think to sprinkle in. You got Jerick McKinnon around $5,000 as well. But Tyler Boyd, to me, he just brings the most consistency and the best chance to really hammer home like a 10 kind of target game. I know he's the third receiver, and his target share really hasn't been that big over the last half of the season. But this is a quality player. And again, he has been Joe Burrow's go-to guy kind of in the red zone. I mean, 4 touchdowns coming home down the stretch as well for Tyler Boyd. I look at the other options there, and people are going to get fancied out by Byron Pringle, catches touchdowns, Mecole Hardman, big play machine. But I think Tyler Boyd is the guy, game flow wise. How are you thinking this game is going to go? Chiefs probably going to be behind, no matter what Steve Buchanan tells you. Boyd to me is in a spot just to be that secondary coverage guy, much like Gabe Davis, who's probably going to come up with a few more targets than you think. I like Tyler Boyd under 5K.
All right, Pierce, where are you going to try to save us some cash?
Jerick McKinnon, he's not going to save you a lot, but he'll definitely differentiate in ownership. Everyone's going with quarterbacks and receivers. Going with the defenses is probably a little too far. McKinnon has doubled the snaps of Helaire last week, doubled the touches, and tripled the routes. And that's what we expect, a lot more passing. And Cincinnati is just as bad as Kansas City in defending receiving running backs. They're towards the bottom of the league in terms of receptions and receiving yards. You just need McKinnon to find the end zone, and you will be good.
Guys, let's go to the second game today, the NFC title game. So your captain for 49ers Rams is who, Pierce?
We'll go with the 49ers DST. This game has stayed at 3.5 points all week. The line hasn't moved despite the Niners being on the road. Why is it not moving? Well, the 49ers have a chance. And they don't have a chance because of their offense. They have a chance because of their defense. And if San Francisco's offense wasn't good last week and it wasn't because of the cold weather, then I'm not going to say the cold weather that held Green Bay back either. 49ers defense is playing well. They played well the last time they faced the Rams, a 40% pressure rate. The Rams offensive line is not completely healthy. You put pressure on Stafford, he'll make mistakes. Los Angeles hasn't been as consistent as you would like to see. I think there's an opportunity here. I know everyone wants to target Jimmy pick 6. But you might get even lower ownership here going after the Rams offense by taking the 49ers D.
Ooh, Jeff, does that make you a little nervous he's going that route because you got Stafford as your captain?
Well, here's the thing. I mean, I actually really like the San Francisco DST as a play, but I think you can actually play them both. I mean, just because Matthew Stafford throws 3 interceptions, I think that, that's a possibility. I don't think it's necessary that he also can't have a big fantasy day. I actually think in that scenario, it helps Matthew Stafford because the possessions are going to be shorter. He's going to get the ball back quickly if there's a pick 6 or something. So Matthew Stafford, here's the case for Matthew Stafford and the captain. Look, everybody's piling on Cooper Kupp, and for good reason. He is the offense. He is the way that obviously the passing game is going to flow through. But there have been a couple scenarios here where Matthew Stafford has posted 24-plus points and Cooper Kupp has come in under 20 points. The two aren't necessarily correlated. You don't need a massive game from Cooper Kupp to have a massive game from Matthew Stafford. We saw it against the Arizona Cardinals. Stafford still was really efficient. Kupp came in under 20 points, and Stafford came in over 24 points. I think that Matthew Stafford is a very good pivot play here. You're going to get much lower ownership on him in the big fields. And if Cooper Kupp does only have 18 points, that's fine in your flex because you're paying $6K less than the people who paid up for him in the captain spot. So I like Matthew Stafford here. And like I said, you can still roll with Pierce's pick. Just put him in the flex spot and be more conservative about it.
All right, well, speaking of the flex, bring us home here, Pierce, with your value play for 49ers Rams. Who is this?
Ben Skoranek. This is absolutely moronic, but you're going to have to be slightly moronic if you want to differentiate from everyone in a big showdown contest. You've got to take some risks. The rookie's done absolutely nothing this season, but Van Jefferson is questionable. If he's limited or doesn't play, Skoranek gets on the field, catches a couple passes, maybe finds the end zone. You're going to have a huge edge on the rest of it. It's a complete gamble. You're going to want to monitor the Van Jefferson news.
Damn.
But no one saw Gabe Davis coming. This isn't going to be Gabe Davis 2.0, but if he can do like a quarter of what Gabriel Davis did, then I think you're going to be fine.
I didn't know that guy was a human being on this planet. Jeff, who do you like as your value play?
All season with this guy.
I love it, though, dude. It's the best.
I take people back. I don't even know what week it was. Semi Fioco. Pierce was throwing out Semi Fioco. He didn't even play a snap, and now he's got supersonic Ben Skoranek as his play. Okay, whatever. I don't know.
Most of my research goes into saying the names.
I'm going with Juwan Jennings. Juwan Jennings got 2 touchdowns against the Rams 3 weeks ago. I don't know how long it was ago. The last game of the regular season. He's out there for 50% of the snaps. Of course you got to play him at this price tag. I don't even think he's going to be that highly owned. I was going to make the San Francisco 49ers DST my value play, but Pierce picked him for the captain, so I didn't want to go over it. Juwan Jennings is fine. He's going to actually be on the field and is a real human being, so you can play him.
All right, good stuff, guys. Quick and dirty for you two today. Jeff, though, I need you to text me back a little later. Reed is very upset about Luke List and Willie Z yesterday. For all of you watching, though, check out the DK lobby to enter either of those showdown contests, please. And by the way, there is a contest for the 49ers Rams game with $1 million in prizes, $200,000 going to first place. And while you're there, do yourself a favor, take a gander at the Millie Maker. Again, $20 to enter, more than $3.5 million in prizes, $1 million of that going to the winner. You still have a few more hours before this contest locks, so start building those lineups right meow. It is an absolute pleasure to welcome back Ross Tucker for his weekly segment here on The Sweats. Good to see you. I thoroughly enjoyed you working in the Back to the Future reference when you were calling the Bucs-Rams game last weekend. So nice job on that, dude.
Oh, I appreciate that. I love calling games. And Nick Scott for the Rams, two weeks in a row, he made a really good play. Great Scott! That was a heck of a play by Nick.
Yeah, and you know what? Not even like Biff Tannen here in his Gray's Sports Almanac could really see the epic finish that was coming in that Chiefs-Bills game, by the way. And I know you have a soft spot in your heart for Buffalo. So how much did that sting? You've said before it's the best franchise you've ever played for.
Yeah, absolutely. And so listen, more than anything else, I want a close game. I want good storylines. And then if I'm being honest, there's the selfishness comes into play, right? So if the Bills had won, I knew I was going to be on sideline for the AFC Championship game. So if the Bills had won, I'd much rather Saturday afternoon drive up to Buffalo, maybe even go skiing up there somewhere or whatever. The less flights, the better.
Yep.
So instead now I have to fly to Kansas City and for today's game, obviously, which is awesome. But I will also say this. I love Bills fans, man.
They're the best.
I mean,
they're the best.
They are the best. It is the best experience I had as a player. And I also kind of like new blood. You know, Bills Bengals, knowing one of them would go to the Super Bowl for the first time in forever, that would have been so cool. Yep. That environment would have been crazy. I wanted it for the Bills organization, the players, all that. But you know what? Patrick Mahomes doesn't care what I want.
Nope.
And the other thing that bothered me is just I felt like the Bills coaching staff kind of blew the end of that game, the last 13 seconds, in like 4 different ways.
Coaching scared a little bit. Coaching scared. Hey, real quick, should the NFL change its overtime rules?
I'm okay if they decide to do that. College overtime would be fine by me. If they went to a full 15 minutes, that would be fine by me. Just don't blame the Bills' loss for that.
Yeah.
The Bills blew it. They had 140-plus chances during regulation, 140-plus snaps. And you can't just say, well, both teams should get the ball. Both teams should get the ball. Well, okay, so then let's say that happened Sunday night. Then the Bills go down and score. Well, then the Chiefs get the ball again. They go down and score, and they win. So we didn't fix it. You know, just saying both teams get the ball doesn't fix anything.
Yeah, it's tough to find a even fix for a situation like that. Okay, so you are going to be in Kansas City calling this game, and we know that Kansas City is the first team to host 4 straight AFC Championship games here. Bengals are the dogs. Do they have what it takes? Do they have what it takes to knock this team off, to knock off Patty Mayonnaise and company?
I think they do. I don't think they will, man. I'm a little nervous about this one. You know, I don't care at all who wins. It'd be kind of fun if the Bengals won. I just want a close game. But I'm worried this game could get away from the Bengals. You know, the right side of their offensive line especially is really struggling. Joe Burrow takes sacks that you just can't take. I think he'll improve on that going into next year. That place is going to be so loud. And it kind of feels like the Bengals have already had a successful season. I'm a little worried that this game gets away from them. I hope it doesn't, but I could only lean to laying the points with the Chiefs in this one. I think there's a better chance that the Chiefs win by double digits than there is that the Bengals win, for example.
Okay, because like the performance of the two defenses in like recent weeks has definitely been telling, Ross, because you have the Chiefs giving up points seemingly like at will, while the Bengals have largely like kept things tight.
Correct. Bengals defense has really impressed me, but again, they're not going to get 3 interceptions from Patrick Mahomes like they did from Ryan Tannehill.
Yeah.
You know, that's not happening. He doesn't do that. So somehow maybe they can get one. Maybe Trey Hendrickson can get a strip sack. I hope it's an awesome, epic, high-scoring game, but I'll lay the points with the Chiefs.
Yeah, by the way, Mahomes 7-1 with 23 touchdowns and 1 pick in AFC playoff games. So, like, home field advantage could be the difference in this one. So if the Chiefs win, Ross, and then San Francisco can knock off the Rams, we got ourselves a rematch of Super Bowl 54. San Francisco has beat the Rams 6 straight times, dude. So which side punches its ticket to the Super Bowl this time?
Well, that's why I think you have to take the Niners and the points. I was able to get them when they were getting 3.5, earlier in the week. You got to take the Niners and the points in this one. Now, I kind of think the Rams will win the game, but 6 straight. You think one of these games the Rams would have found a way to win, and for whatever reason, it feels like Kyle Shanahan owns the guys he used to coach with. Matt LaFleur, Sean McVay. Shanahan owns these guys, bro. He was their boss, and he shows them who's boss. Every time they play, it's incredibly impressive. I love how physical the Niners play up front, both sides of the ball. That's usually how they beat the Rams. They are better up front in these games. I think the Rams have a better team.
Yeah.
I think the Rams are going to win the game. But, if you're going to give me a team that's won 6 straight and those points, I think the game's close enough. And I'll take the points and the Niners, even though I think I've got more faith in Stafford to make the critical play like he did to Cooper Kupp against the Bucs than I do Jimmy G, who's more likely to make, in my opinion, a critical error.
Ross Tucker, you mean the world to us. Enjoy Pro Bowl weekend. Like next weekend, we'll talk to you on Super Bowl Sunday, okay?
Sounds great. See ya.
All right, now it's time for some notes here on the NFC title game, courtesy of producer Tom. So San Fran making its 17th conference championship appearance, the most in NFL history. And LA trying to become just the second team ever to host the NFL championship game in their home stadium, because we know Tom Brady and Tampa Bay did that thing last year. And today marks only the second postseason meeting between the 49ers and Rams, the last one coming in 1989. The same year, Bette Midler's Wind Beneath My Wings won the Grammy for Song of the Year and Record of the Year. Our handsome three-man panel is back. DraftKings contributors Julian Edlow, Steve Buchanan, and Reed T. Fowler. Dudes, it's time to make it rain, so hook us up with your DFS play, who is absolutely going to make it rain cash for lineups today. Steve, you're up first.
I really like this spot for Odell Beckham Jr. Since he's come on to the Rams, he has the second highest average distance of target, only trailing Van Jefferson. But to be honest, really, Odell Beckham Jr. has taken the spot of Van Jefferson. And you look at what he's done over the past 4 games, at least 5 targets in 3 of those games. He's getting the red zone targets too as well. When you're looking to stack with somebody with Matt Stafford, the obvious choice is, of course, Cooper Kupp. But if you're going to be making tournament lineups today, I think this is a really good pivot. He's almost half the price of Cooper Kupp too as well. Not going to get the same type of production, but this is something you can rely upon for double-digit fantasy points. If he gets in the end zone too, that's just a cherry on top. But I think this is a great spot for Beckham, especially if the 49ers try to eliminate Cooper Kupp. But, good luck with that.
Yeah, Reed, speaking of Cooper Kupp, that's where you're going, and people can fade him like at their own risk. I think the real question is whether you pay up for him as captain or you simply just flex him.
Yeah, I think both are okay, because if you look at what he did last week, 35.5 DraftKings points, and that's 3x his number right around there, and that's what he's done right throughout this entire season. In his 2 games against San Francisco, I think he went for 29 and 26, so that's right around that 2.5, 3x multiplier that you want for any format, so tournaments or cash. But I agree with these guys. I think that if you talk about OBJ, he is the right pivot, not Skoranek, whatever his name is. He might get hurt on special teams. But yeah, Cooper Kupp is just that easy play. He's the one that I want to get in and figure everything else out later.
The most reliable and automatic player in fantasy football this year. There's no doubt about it. Jules, where are you going? You're going tight end position.
Going tight end, we're going Travis Kelsey. You got to make things fit in these 2-game slates. And Travis Kelsey's $6,500 on the main slate. He peaked this season at $8,500. He's almost always above $7,000. So it's a good play in terms of value. The Bengals ranked 25th in terms of DraftKings points allowed to the tight end position. Kelsey has scored at least 1 touchdown in 5 straight games. He's got a multi-TD game in there. Only 25 yards against the Bengals the last time, but he was playing dinged up. I think he's going to have a much better game this time around, and a gotta-have-it game at home. You see he's ramped it up. He's averaging over 100 yards per game in the playoffs so far. So I'm going to say once again, over 100 and a touchdown for Travis Kelsey.
Bengals allowed the 5th most fantasy points to tight ends in the regular season. Some great.
Pretty much said that.
Yeah,
thanks.
I know you did. I'm just confirming with you once again. Great make it rain picks by all 3 of you. Appreciate it. Toodles,
Thanks.
Everybody. Maybe we will see some of you tomorrow here on a Monday edition of The Sweat, hosted by yours truly and Jesse Cofield, 11 a.m. Eastern time to high noon. Our next Sunday Sweat will arrive in 2 weeks for the big game. Have a fantastic